There is an interesting subsection to the world of origami called Fractigami that offers an innovative means to exploring fractals in the classroom. Here we have explored a fractigami or fractal origami model of the traditional Menger sponge fractal. In order to begin to construct this origami fractal, or fractigami, model of the Menger sponge, we must establish a working unit upon which to build our model. Here we begin with the traditional modular sonobe unit, a unit which is perfect for construction as it consists of a square portion with 4 slits into which the 2 flaps of the greater parallelogram shape can be inserted to build geometrically sound structures. This video clip shows step by step how each of these sonobe units is made. The level 1 Menger sponge appears as a simple cube. A cube, as we all know, has 6 faces, so we will be needing 6 sonobe units to construct this level. This is fairly manageable. However, as we will see, the number of units required to create subsequent levels of this fractal increases exponentially with each level. As we know from the previous section, the level 1 Menger sponge is a simple cube. A simple cube with 6 faces and 6 sonobe units. However, the level 2 Menger sponge is made up of this cube cubed. This means that there must be a 3 by 3 arrangement of the previous cubes, with the center cube of each new compound face eliminated. However, eliminating this face does not make it simpler. Because we eliminate this face, we create 4 new faces. So instead of having a 6-face figure with 9 subfaces on each face, making it a 54 sonobe unit figure, the new figure is made up of 72 subfaces. Here we have a deconstructed, non-connected net of the level 2 Menger sponge. Although we can only see a 2-dimensional representation of this level of the Menger sponge here, we know that each blue square represents one face. The tricky part, conceptualization-wise, is recognizing that the black squares represent not one, but four faces, occurring on each of the four edges of the black squares. Therefore, the 8 blue squared faces plus the 4 black square edge faces equals 12 Sonobe unit subfaces per each of the 6 sides of the level 2 Menger sponge. A total of 72 Sonobe units are required to create the level 2 Menger sponge. Here we see in more detail how each of the blue squares represents one face, while the black square, the absence of the center square that has been eliminated by the fractal, creates 4 new faces along its edges. The 4 new edge faces plus the 8 blue faces makes this level 2 Menger sponge consisting of 12 such compound faces a 72 Sonobe unit shape. And now to put this into practice. As I said before, we have created a level 2 Menger sponge Fractigami model. This model was created again by using 72 Sonobe units. Here we can see a very much sped up version of how this was constructed. Important things to note here are just how the various Sonobe units interlocked with one another. The top triangles of the parallelogram sliding into the X-shaped triangles on the face of the Sonobe unit. Often corrections had to be made to ensure each of the 72 units was connected to as many of the other units as possible in order to achieve stability. And what about level 3? After seeing how the Fractigami Menger sponge model was created at level 2, how can we take this further? Well, first we must discern how many Sonobe units will be required to construct this level. Here I have again provided a disconnected two-dimensional model of the level 3 Menger sponge. It might appear that one could just count the faces as we did before in level 2, remembering each of the eliminated squares created 4 more Sonobe unit faces. However, now we are using the entire level 2 Menger sponge as a unit. So each of the faces that we see actually represents more faces than are visible. Here I found it extremely useful to have the physical model that I could touch to count exactly how many faces were represented by each square. Wonderful! Now we can tell that each of the corner levels 2 subfaces represents 3 sets of subfaces, and each of the middle level 2 subfaces represents 4 sets of level 2 subfaces. Let me say that again for clarity, as you folks at home may not necessarily have the benefit of a physical model. Each of the corner level 2 subfaces, circled here in red, represents 3 sets of subfaces, and each of the middle level 2 subfaces, circled here in green, represents 4 sets of level 2 subfaces. The result of this discovery was the number of Sonobe units that would be required to create the level 3 Menger sponge. As I mentioned before, here we see the number of required units spiraling to unmanageable levels. Because we can see that there are 12 units per level 2 subface, times 3 connected sets of these subfaces, times 4 occurrence of this per side, we can tell that 144 Sonobe units are present per visible composite face on one side of the level 3 Menger sponge. Because there are 8 of these level 2 composite faces on each of the 8 level 3 Menger sponge faces, we can tell that there are 1,152 Sonobe units required to create a model of this level 3 Fractigami Menger sponge. At the risk of ridding the world of all its trees and paper, we have chosen to stick to the digital renderings of the level 4 and level 5 Menger sponge in the second dimension. As we approach infinity, the impracticality of fractals is shown. If fractals behaved as they do in theory, we would be able to continue adding more and more levels until the end of time, never running out of room for more detail. However, in reality, our computers, our minds, and our universe simply cannot allow for or perceive such detail. So, as we approached infinity, we were left unable to experience the full extent of this fractal. Here, our computer programs cut us off at level 5, as the level 6 1/8 subunit appears as nothing more than a black square, the detail imperceptible.